And we're right where David was in a backslidden. In chapter 29, David was in a backslidden condition. I understand David is the church. This is not a story that you can go talk about. This is a story about life. And it still applies itself to us today. David had gotten so discouraged. How did David get discouraged? After many years of running from a man that you're sick of him every time you look up. Somebody is talking about you. Saul is coming after this guy. And Saul, what's so crazy about it, Saul is his brother. He's a member of the church. And he ran after David and ran after David until David ran into the hand of the enemy and said, surely he won't come after me over here. But the flip side of running into the Ziklag, running into Achish, who was the king of the Philistines. And now he had just knocked down Goliath some years ago. So the song and the number one hit was David killed 10,000, Saul killed 1,000. Saul heard that hit song and he became a hit man, an assassin in the church because somebody testified and gave David more credit than they were giving Saul, and Saul couldn't handle it. And then his spirit just began to drown, and instead of him reaching up toward God, he stayed in his flesh. He would come out, and he'll come out like we do and really be sorry for the things that we did, and then we go back in. And we backslide and go back in and forget all the things that we know about God. And because it wouldn't stop, David just, after 10 years of running, just imagine somebody trying to kill you that many years, and it does happen. David ran into the church. When the church run into the hand of a sinner, the damage that the church can do to a person is cannot be defined. If you ever been hurt by somebody, that all you were doing was trying to do the right thing, but then they started introducing you to bits and pieces of folly. And the next thing you know, the thing killed you, but you left a residue of what you were training. What am I saying? There are people that don't love God, and they get caught up in sin. And I know these guys. Everything that I say, I'm pulling out of something that I know. Something that I know. They played around in the ministry. They had the names. They had all these big bishops and all of this stuff. And I worked downtown for these guys. These men had captivated younger guys. And I'm sitting in the office typing, and the folly that was going on inside of, according to the rumor of the office, that these guys were homosexual preachers, bishops. They did die. But they had entertained so many people before they died. Like a proselyte, or a person that's being in training to become in leadership or being trained. But you left these guys on earth. You tampered with them. And now they're walking around like zombies, unattracted to the body of Christ or anything about church. But they walk around and you say something to them, they're almost ready to cut you. We do that when we don't give people the word of God. We mislead them. And now these guys are just waiting for their turn to say exit to hell. And it's hard to get to know them and bring any kind of righteous life to them because you fed them dumb food. You fed them deadly nutrients because you had the title and you had the drawing power and you were a magnet. But you cared nothing about that brother when he bounced off, or that sister when they bounced off the edge of or whatever you were on, and you go and touch those lives now. It's almost scary to walk into a place and all you did was say good morning. They would take out a knife and cut you. That's how deadly we are. You're deadly when you got enough of God's word to just be in the way. And then people come and get tainted by the spirit. They wear the right clothes. They wear the right outfits. They say the right lingos and they know how to do it. And they will not pick up that word for nothing. I don't care what they say. They will not pick. They pick up the word enough just to know that I got a copy. They would never turn the pages to get an understanding. And then we walk around proudly like Tarzan, beating our chest. I Tarzan, you nothing. And then when we lost, you want to know how I know you don't come after people? Because you ain't never came after me. And I ain't got no problem with it. But when I go and try to touch the lives of people that you dropped off, they look at me like, back off of me. And I'm coming with something and say, I used to be like you. It is such a dangerous thing that we have done, just like Saul was doing to David. David is in the hand of, how in the world you drop off David and he's having dinner with the enemy? He hate the, in Achish in chapter 29, being ready, got ready outfit, got ready to dress up to go and kill the children of Israel. And David said, I'm coming with you. You're going to see what I can do. You got to the point that David, the church, is sitting up with the enemy on his way to kill more members of the church because he's lost now. You can't do nothing with him now. But God can. And God judged David and he judged Saul. He said, now, don't be offended, but woe to the offender. Saul is the offender. Saul has been in the presence of God. And you drove a man out of the presence of God. And God said, I got my hand on him. I ain't going to let him go. Because you did it. I know his heart. I know that even in a backslidden condition, he still got integrity in him. He still want to do the things that I'm loyal to. I pledge my allegiance to you, Achish. And Achish even gave David a good name in that position. Said, you good, you're a loyal man. God saw that loyalty. Saul was the offender. He said, it's better to wrap a necklace of a stone that's so heavy, get you about a 400 or 500 pound necklace, and take yourself to the deepest end of the earth, inside that sea, in the deepest end of the ocean, and plunge in it, than to offend one of the least of these of my brethren. He gave us his word on it. And so here is David getting ready in chapter 29 to go and do whatever he's going to do to destroy the children of Israel, because I got to be loyal to some. I can't live a whole life and show nobody that I am some good. I just want to fit in somewhere. I'm sick of Saul. I'm sick of the people that's coming after Saul, 3,000, and everybody running and calling Saul, telling Saul, there she go, there she go, there you go, there you go. David said, I'm out of here. Then he gets on his way with Achish, King Achish, wrong side of the team. And then Achish princess came up to him like, wait a minute, hold up, Bishop Achish. What is you hanging out with? He said, oh, that's David. You know the song, 10,000 he killed and 1,000 saw. He said, they looked at Achish and said, are you crazy? This guy ain't going nowhere with us. Send him on back to wherever you got him. In other words, we follow you. We are princes. You are king. Get David. David going to go with us, and in the middle of the battle, he going to change his mind, perhaps. And then all we going to bring, he said, you bring David with us, he going to do them cause chaos. I can't think and fight the people that he used to be with him being on our, I ain't calling him a traitor. I just know he ain't going nowhere with us. So Achish called David and said, look, David, these folk ain't having it. I know you're a good man, and I know you're loyal. He said, but they ain't having it. And be honest with you, I can't afford to lose all these folk. You ain't got but 600. I got thousands. And David was feeling like this. He said, you mean to say you finna reject me too? What is wrong with me? I work at this school. I go to this church. This church won't let me in. I go to the bishop, and he said, don't you come here. Then I go to the smaller churches, then you ain't fitting here. Then you go to your relative church, your identical twin brother's church, and he said, you ain't good enough here. After a while, you feel like, where do I belong? Then you move to Atlanta, then you get to go to a big church and they say, you don't fit in here. And then after a while, you start looking at yourself, what's wrong with me? Am I reading this right? Did you say what I'm saying? Why is every door that I'm walking in closing? David said, you're not going to let me go fight with you. I'm going to be loyal. I ain't going to turn. I give you my word. And God knew David was giving him his word. And God said, no, you ain't going to go with it. But that's all in the plan of God. I got a protection over you. I'm not going to let you go that far. Because I understand you offended. And I will go to fight for you. This is God. So David gets into chapter 30. He tells his guys, so Achish said, get up early in the morning. He said, go on back now. And you get on back to Ziklag. That's the spot I gave you. That's your apartment. That's where you're going to live. Go on back home. We're going to fight this war by ourselves, not without you. And David said, all right. David got his 600 men, and they got up because he said, get out of town by daylight. Because we getting ready to go kill us some folk. We're finna kill some folk today. And David is on his way being obedient. And this is where we are in chapter 30. That's why we have to read this word, because this thing is a God unfolding story of everything that happens. And you need to know who are these people. Because if you pull this section of chapter 30 out and you preach it, and you don't attach it to where it's supposed to go, people are not going to understand as much of the love of God as they could understand. And how God has already protected the offended one. There are some hurt people that really meant business. But somebody who just wanted the power and the position, you ran them away. And God holds you accountable. You became an enemy of God, and the judgment of God is against your house. Not only will he destroy you, he'll destroy everybody in your house. That's why the word said, examine yourself to see whether or not you're in the faith. And it's sad. I used to be like that, and I wasn't in the word either. But there was something about not being in the word. I didn't know nothing about the seriousness of the word. But I knew that you ain't had no business trying to sleep with me. I knew that much. And I called you out. It was just something about why you get hot. What? You got my position, and I'm gonna do it. I never could roll like that. Because if I'm gonna be serious, I'm gonna be serious without a title. I don't need your title. And if anybody ever been around me, you know the core of me. You know I don't play. You know I don't change, and I'm just, you might not like me because they say you blunt. Whatever that means. I mean, you tell the truth, what they saying. But the truth is, now I connected with the truth because I stopped and I'm now reading the word. So let's get into what is the church doing. I believe you me. There are some souls of people who may not have picked the word up like I did. But the church definitely put me out. But that's okay. Jesus said I came after that. The 99 saved, sanctified folk. He said, that's all right. I see a sheep out there that's lost. And I was one of them. I was confused. I'm at home trying to live right. And then I get to church, I said, you act like you shaming me in public. He said, no, girl, you just right for me. All right, so now we got David, offended, going back to Ziklag. Ziklag. Let's see what happened. David, verse 1, and it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, it took 3 days to get back to where they were. And I read where there was 25 miles per day. So that said these guys walked 75 miles. If it's not, anyway, I'm going to leave those numbers alone. But anyway, it was a long walk. And they back to town. David and his men will come to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south. and Ziklag. When they got back home, the Amalekites. Now, David is away, out of the will of God, in a backslidden condition, a hurt man. He's coming back home, walks in the vicinity of where he lives, and realized something has happened. That the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire. Imagine all you've been kicked out by Saul, you've been kicked out by Achish. You try to get back home to your family that you know will greet you and treat you of some sort of life person. And you walk in there and you about to lose your mind. The Amalekites did it. Who are the Amalekites? And that's what I studied this morning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about these folk. The Amalekites were the descendants of Esau. When Jacob and Esau were twin brothers, one day Esau came in and said, I'm hungry. Jacob said, I got food. Esau said, feed me. Jacob, feed me. Esau said that. Jacob said, what you gonna give me in place of this food that you want? He said, give me your birthright and then I'll give you something to eat. He said, man, what is a birthright to me, hungry as I am? So the power that came out of Esau's mouth, he opted out to be blessed and said, just give me some stuff. And he gave his rights to his brother, and God honored it. It wasn't done right. But what is God saying to us? What did you decree? See, when Esau said that, you gave up the rights to be blessed for a temporary gratification of something to eat, something to have, something to sleep with. You gave it up. And God was trying to train us from the mouth of our tongue that when we say things, do you really know how long what you say lasts? Here it is, thousands, hundreds of years later, that the bitterness of what Esau spoke to his brother Jacob, and now Esau is dead. But now he left droplets of his sperm, and we got his children who are now called Amalekites. Amalekites have been taunting and fighting the children of Israel from the moment that God raised him. A group of people said, you're going to be my conduit. You're going to be my pipeline. We're finna go into a world that's not like me, and I'm going to use you, children of Israel. And I'm going to use you to be a light, to bring the light to this dark world. If I got millions of you, and let's say hundreds of thousands of you decide not to walk with me, I'm going to get me somebody out of here. I'm going to get me somebody out of here. I'm going to save this thing. If I'm going to save me, somebody in here is going to hear what I have to say. So the Amalekites, as soon as the children of Israel walked out of Egypt, having been fighting Pharaoh and his army, they're not fighting, they're getting away from God. Got all the fight. The Amalekites, as soon as they get out of Egypt, the Esau began to take and try to destroy the children of Jacob, which is no longer, God changed that name. I believe that God changed his name to Israel. One reason is because there was a death threat on the name Jacob. God, let me get your name off of that. Because Esau, he tried to be a straight shooter. If your name is still Jacob, then by what he spoke, he can still have some type of right to take you out of here. So I'm going to change your name. And when I change your name, nothing that will ever come against you from him will ever work. So God changed the name of Jacob to, because I got work for you to do. So we get rid of that. You know how you get up on a bad company who has a bad name, and Jacob himself had a bad reputation, having done his brother like this. I'm just going to change your name. Because Esau is going to try to kill Jacob, but he could be after the wrong name, because I'm going to change yours. You ever been into a place where they had such a bad reputation till the next administrator came in? He said, we don't live under that name. We're up under new administration. Israel is up under new administration. Same man, new name. So here we are out of Egypt hundreds of years later. So let's say we got hundreds and hundreds of years later, but I'm still mad. I have spoken my house so much until now my children are trained to hate you. The church has spoken against somebody in that church so much until now another whole generation that don't even know nothing about you is getting ready to fight you, just like they knew you when Esau sold his birthright. Because the only somebody can change that stigma off of you is the blood that Jesus is going to shed. But up until now, God is in control of trying to get that blood flowing. But this is all in the process. So here we are with these Amalekites, the mad people that didn't want God and don't want you to have him either. Esau had a right to have everything that he opted out of, but he sold it. And from that, he told him, I'm going to kill you. Now he got his little grandchildren out here holding up to the evil decree that he made against his brother. Right here, the little old man named David, not knowing that you getting ready to be one of the greatest men that ever walked on the grounds of the earth. David haven't been rejected by a lot of people. So when you walk with God, to understand if you can't stand rejection, if you don't know what it means to be cast out, what God is telling the church right now, you will be cast out. You got a hit, you got a name, you got a, if anybody trying to hit you, you ought to be glad greater is, I'm more for it. If I'm for you, don't even try to count. But if you're going to walk with this word and you're going to be different, it's going to cost. And let's see what David did. So now we understand the Amalekites is the hatred that has been passed down from generation to, it's been like a crock pot, just seasoning the hatred. Just Amalekites. They invaded while the Philistines left to go kill the Israelites, go do them. Then Amalekite, if I can't bite you by being a snake, I'll come at you like a rat. I'm coming in. I just want to destroy everything that's like God. Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire. This is David's hometown that he had taken up with the Philistine, but Philistine don't own nothing. Let's see how God gonna work this thing out. Cause Amalekite is Ziklag is just Ziklag is just all of the land belonged to the children of Israel. When God told Moses, and God told Moses this, when Amalekites came and jumped on Israel when they walked out of the hand of Pharaoh, and he saw what they did, and they had to hold Moses. You had to go back into the word. They had to hold his arm up just so that they can win the battle in between what the Amalekites was doing to them. God said, Moses, get your pen, write it down. 15th chapter of Exodus, 15, 16, 17, somewhere up in there. He said, I will utterly destroy the Amalekites. I ain't gonna do it all at once. By generation, I'm gonna destroy every last one of them. Because I'm trying to give old Esau a chance to get himself together. He said, I personally going to destroy the Amalekites. What do you mean by that? I didn't get the word. I could just, second verse. And after David came home and saw his house burned up and had taken the women captives that were therein, they didn't kill any of them, great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. The Amalekites did that. Now imagine David and them walked all these miles to get back home. So David and his men came to the city. And behold, it was burned with fire. Saul hates me. Rejected by the Philistine army. What? David, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice. The pain, one voice. That choir came in as a voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. They cried until all of the whatever things that make tears, they lifted up their voices and cried as if the director of the choir said, hit this note. And they all cried pain. We walked. We just feel like we're worthless. And David being the leader, the Bible says they cried, and they cried until they had no more power to weep. That's hurt. I'm crying. I have no more power to weep. I've cried. Imagine Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And the Bible says that the tears that came from him were as blood, I know what it's like to cry until you can almost hear your blood hit the floor, the carpet, because of the hurt. I can't imagine what David was doing. I can only use my imagination. And David's two wives were taken captives. Ahinoam the Jezreelitess and Abigail, the wife of Nabal, the Carmelite. And David was greatly, severely distressed. Just think about all the stuff he'd been through. What is going on with my life? For the people spake of stoning. He said, I'm going to kill you, David. All because of you. The church would turn on the person. We so need God. And the church told David, we'll kill you. We so sick of this stuff because the soul of the people was grieved. Every man, they wanted their sons and for his daughters, but David encouraged himself in the Lord, his God. David was the world had turned, everything about David's life was so at a point. I got the members of the church want to kill me. I've been rejected by all the people with power. But David encouraged himself. He had enough power to call on somebody who has been consistent with him. He finally opened up his mouth and called on the name of the Lord. And David said to Abiathar, he hadn't said this in a long time. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son. This the boy that was with David in 85. It was 85 priests, but he got away. And he watched his daddy get killed by David's conduct when he was in a backslidden condition. But he came to David, and David said, abide with me. Because as sure if they want to kill you, if they want to kill me, they're going to kill you too. So he stuck with David. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me here the ephod. Bring me the work. Give me the priestly garment. And Abiathar brought there the ephod to David. And David, this is the apron that when they got ready to slaughter, the blood was sprinkled on it. And David went before God. Saul hates me. I partnered with Achish and they don't want me. The people getting ready to kill me. And I get it. What you got to say to me today? And David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? All I need to know, I would go by myself. If it takes me going by myself, shall I? I'm asking you. I'm coming back to your presence. I ain't talk to you in a minute. Shall I go after this troop? Shall I overtake them? Will I win? And he answered him, capital P-U-R-S-U-E in the middle of the sentence. God said, capital P-U-R-S-U-E, pursue. Go get them. For you shall surely overtake them. God said that pursue as if he said, I'm announcing it. And I want you to clearly see I'm standing out with this thing. That means go after them. Overtake them and without fail, recover everything they took. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. He said, some of those guys, I can't go no further. Honestly, I just can't. I just, David, I'm sorry, but we're so tired. Tired, scared, hungry, all the stuff that goes along. I don't know about being hungry, but anyway, you guys said 200 of these guys to drop me off. I can't handle it. But David pursued. He and 400, he dropped off 200. But 200 men abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. Some people just can't. Some of us just can't handle it. But you got to have a good leader to understand. Just leave them alone. I get it. Y'all stay here, just watch the stuff that we have. And they said, okay, Dave. That's a good leader right there. And they found an Egyptian in the field. Saw this, okay, who that? And brought him to David and gave him bread, and he did eat. And they made him drink water. They just found this guy just lame, limp. The soldiers did, and they said, David, here's a guy over here. And they gave him a piece of cake of figs, 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit came again to him. He revived, for he had nothing to eat or drink any water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David talked to him and said to him, he said, who do you belong to and where you coming from? David didn't leave out any clues of anything. He saw something. He said, this might be a clue. And he said, I'm a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite. And my master left me because 3 days ago I feel sick. And he dropped me off and said, you just stay here. He left me here basically to die. But God got a plan. He said, I'm going to tell you what happened. We made an invasion upon the south of Kereshethites and upon the coast which belongs to Judah and upon the south of Caleb. And we burned Ziklag with fire. That was enough right there for somebody to say, boy, I killed you for what you just said. But David said, no, let him talk. Let him talk. And David said to him, can you bring me down to this company? Because they don't need to, I ain't even mad. Right now, okay, you've been sick. You gave me some information. Can you bring me down to where these folk are? And he said, swear unto me, David, swear unto me by God, that you will neither kill me nor deliver me back into the hands of my master. And I'll show you where they are. And everybody, I'll show you the whole company. And when he had brought him down, behold, they were spread abroad on the earth, eating, drinking, and dancing. Dancing. Now, you just took all of David's property. And you out there eating, drinking, and dancing because of the great spoil they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of the land of Judah. You having a good time. When did Jesus say I'm coming back? On the day that you eating, drinking, and dancing. On the day that you think not. And David smote it. David didn't have, the word jumped right into the 17th verse and said, and David killed them from the you know how the night light, just as soon as the sun go down just a little bit and you could just see the little party going on. David broke up that party and he smote them from twilight until the next evening, almost a 24-hour fight. Wasn't no fight, beat down. And there escaped not a man of them except 400 young men, which rode upon camels and fled. And David did what God said, recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away. And David rescued his 2 wives. Stop right here for a minute. I've seen people take this 18th verse and they'll get that part right there. And they'll pull that scripture out of context and they'll make them a whole big old shouting message. But God is saying, I'm not playing to hook that thing back to it, put that scripture back to it, the rest of my story. And stop entertaining my word like that anyway. David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives, and there was nothing lacking to them. Neither small nor great, neither son or daughter, neither spoil nor anything that had taken to them. David recovered all. God is like this. Folk might mess with you, but I got my hand on. They can only go so far. And David took all the flocks and the herds, which they drove before those other cattle, and said, this is David's spoil. In other words, David had so much stuff that was his, rightly divided to be his. And they put David's flock and cattle and stuff in the front and said that belonged to David. And it was a lot. And David came to the 200 men, which were so faint that they could not follow David, whom they had made also to abide at the brook Besor. And they went forth to meet David and to meet the people that were with him. And they got up, and those 200 men that were left, and they were so excited to see David coming back. And when David came near to the people, he saluted them. He said, how y'all doing? Y'all been good. It's good to see y'all again. Then answered the wicked men and the men of Belial, of those that went with David, those who had a big mouth, and those who like to start stuff. Said, I know the blank you ain't getting nothing. And said, because you went not with us, we will not give them all to the spoil that we have recovered. We ain't giving you none of our stuff. Man, you got to be out saved to every man. He said, you can have your wife and your children, but you ain't getting none of this stuff. Then David said, ye shall not do so. What did Jesus tell them folks that was working? He said, what? You think I ain't going to pay you? He just started working. You been here all day and you fussing over my stuff? Oh, we don't work like that. David said. Then said David, you shall not do so, my brother. My brother? My brother? With that which the Lord has given us, who has preserved us. God preserved us and delivered the company into our hands that came against us. And you going to fuss over some stuff? David said, no, it ain't going to happen like that. For who will hearken unto you in this matter? He said, who going to listen to you? But as the part that goes down to the battle, so shall his part be that teareth by the stuff. People on the stage and the people behind the stage get the same thing. You get saved today, turn your heart over to God today. You've been saved one day, somebody been saved 50 years. How about we all going to celebrate? You could be the back of the neck and nobody ever pay you no attention. The whole body gonna be blessed. You could be the little old, what they call back in the kitchen. Nobody ever pay no attention to that until it ain't cut right. You could be anything on the body that's connected, whether everybody can see it or is it inside, nobody ever see it. Everybody in the body gonna be blessed. That's what David said. He said, we're gonna make this a rule. So shall his part be that teareth by the stuff, they shall part alike. And you ain't got to be the one behind the pulpit. If you for me, Jesus said, you're going to get just what the people that see. He said, because I want all y'all to chill. Ain't no big eyes. All of y'all ain't nothing but them one hand. God said, I'm trying to get this mess out of y'all because some of y'all think that, oh, he's so worthy. He said, anyway. Anyways, just stay with the word. And it was so from that day forward that he made it a statute. In other words, let's put this down, put this in writing, and an ordinance from Israel unto this day. David said, up under my watch. We ain't gonna have no I got and you don't. Ain't gonna be no special neighborhoods. And when David came to Ziklag, And this is what David did when he got back home. All that stuff that he had that was going, marching, all his stuff. David said, oh, we back home. The Lord has allowed us to get back home to a burnt city now. Got to go to work. And when David came to Ziklag, he said, call UPS, Amazon. Who else? UPS, Amazon, FedEx. And he sent of the spoil unto the elders of Judah. This is the place David used to hang out with. Now he back in line with his folk, because he was over there scared with the Philistines. He said, I want y'all to send tell UPS to take the spoil, some of it to Judah, to the elders of Judah, even to his friends, saying, behold, a present for you of the spoil of the enemies of the Lord. David says, tell him I sent it. Then he said, now mind you, David didn't get back home. He got back home in his mind to go bless somebody. I got so much stuff. To them which were in Bethel, and those guys back there said, you ain't gonna get none of my stuff. We got folk in church that do that all the time. They think that the Bible says you are the son of the devil. Now they are a member of the body, but God said, now you got the wrong spirit. What did Peter do? Peter blessed and said, Jesus, you are the Christ. The next minute he said, I ain't gonna have Jesus, but get behind me, Satan. So sometimes the churches need to be corrected. And David went on and did what he had to do. But they still in the body. They still in the church. But God had to correct that. Because they said, we ain't getting you nothing. And they really felt like the flesh was saying, you don't deserve it. But God said, back off. When you get to be where I am, then you can make that call. But since you ain't me, follow David's instructions. So, but David got back home knowing all the work that had to be done. And he might have got back home and swept the ashes up and then said, get some of this stuff out of here. It might, because the word don't just say as soon as he got back home, he did this. Sometimes they go back home and get themselves together and get everybody back straight. And then David said, I got all this. He said, send some of this over there to Ramoth, to them which are in Jatir, and send some where in Aurora, and to them which were in Siphmoth, and them which were in Eshtemoa. That's when you know you got a good leader. And to them which were in Rakal, and to them which were in the cities of Jahazmelites, and to them which were in the cities of the Kenites. And folk, there's some kin to Moses. I like them people. Tell them I'm sending them this. I ain't seen them in a long time. And to them which were in Hormah, and to them, look at all this stuff David got. David said, I'm so blessed. I just want to bless the people that I used to hang out with. And to them which were in Hormah, and to them which were in Korashan, and to them which were in Atash. And then the last verse, and send some of those to Hebron and to all the places where David himself and his men used to hang out. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Chapter 30, 31 verses. I'm getting ready to eat out of chapter 31. Love it. Got to see what's going on in the next chapter. Love y'all. Bye.